Hello everyone, I'm Landon Schlungen. Today we are going to be building the random quote machine for the FreeCodeCamp certification and project. This one, we have the test suite, and when we run the tests, it passes all the tests. So that is fantastic. In order to do this project, we need Node.js installed. We're going to be using Visual Studio Code as well. We're going to be using a real React project, so it's not going to be the CDN stuff. It's going to be like npm create React app sort of thing, except we're going to be using Vite, which is a faster bundler and more modern. So in order to get Node.js installed, you go to just look up Node.js and then download the latest stable version. It should be very straightforward to do, and then you should be good to go. Also, if you don't have Visual Studio Code, make sure to download that. Again, very straightforward. When you first open it up, it will probably look something like this. So when I hit new window and bring this over, it will look something like this when you first start it open. And then you want to open a folder and figure out what folder you want to put this in. If you don't have a code folder, I would recommend making a code folder for your projects. Uh, Inside my code folder, I have a bunch of different projects. But this project is going to be in tutorials and FreeCodeCamp copy from. I'm actually going to, go into this folder. Just because I need the project in here, I can just close all these windows for now. I'm going to be creating a new folder in here basically, or a new project, but it's going to be created from the command line. So the command line, this terminal, uh, if you have Node.js installed correctly, you should be able to go node dash dash version, and then it will give you the version. So that's how you know Node is installed. If you can't do this, the rest of the stuff's not going to work. So you have to get this right before you can do anything. You should also be able to do npm dash dash version as well. So these are the two versions I have, 18.16 and 9.4 for npm. I'm not sure why this is giving me a warning. I can just delete it and open up a new one. But yeah, let's make this. I'm going to open this up on the side, and then Uh, we also need to go find how to create this project with Vite. So look up Vite React, and it says getting started with Vite. And then you just scroll down, if it will open up for me. Yes. And to create a Vite app, all we have to do is npm create Vite. Um, yeah, here we go. Npm create Vite at latest. So just copy that command, go into your terminal, paste it in, and hit enter. And then we can give our project a name. In this case, it's going to be random quote machine, random quote machine. Also, if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to be deploying this on Netlify, and then you can actually submit that URL to FreeCodeCamp in order to get the certification. So we're going to be using React. We're also going to be using TypeScript. I know, very crazy, but it's really not that much different from JavaScript, and it will look so much better on resumes. So we're going to be using TypeScript. All right, so basically now we just do what it tells us to do. cd random quote machine, npm install, npm run dev, and yeah, just run these commands. So first cd random quote machine. To autocomplete this, just hit tab and then go npm install and npm run dev. So the install might take a while depending on your internet connection. My internet connection is apparently not the greatest because this does take a while. So, all right, wonderful. It has npm installed for me, and now I can run npm run dev, and this will actually start up our project and give us our boilerplate to look at. So let me open this up, and here it is, Vite plus React. So this is the starter project for Vite. It's basically just what comes out of the box. We should also be able to see the sidebar. I like to hide it so that I have more real estate to work with for code. But now you'll see that we have our folder in here, random quote machine. So now I just want to open up this folder. So I'm just going to go to File, Open Folder, and just make sure I'm in that one. All right, there we go. And then inside of our source directory, app.tsx, this is the, the main bulk of our code. Here's our code. Basically, whatever is showing here, that's what's showing up on the page right here. Like we have this counter, set count, and then when we count, it increments. So if you don't know React, uh, I'll try and make this like a beginner tutorial for you, but you should know somewhat of React if you've followed through on the FreeCodeCamp curriculum. Yeah, without further ado, let's actually start building this. The first thing I want to do is take a look at the CSS that they have. So to find the CSS, you can do Control P and look up CSS, and then we have app.css and index.css. Inside of index.css, we're going to pretty much delete most of this, but I want to actually keep the background color in the color. We can get rid of the color scheme and all of this font synthesis stuff and everything below that. I also want to keep the font because I actually like this font more than whatever the other default is. So we're going to keep a little bit of this default CSS, but in app.css, we are going to delete all of it. Yes. So do Control A and delete, and then also Control S for save. You might have autosave on. That's okay too. All right. But also in index.css, we want to get rid of all of our margin padding. So we're going to go margin 0, padding 0. Also, a cool thing about using VS Code is I am using GitHub Copilot, so it actually helps me write code faster using machine learning. So that's very helpful for me. Okay, so let's get rid of all this boilerplates as well. And if I save this, this screen will go blank, basically, I think, right? Refresh. Do I have to refresh this? Oh, it's connecting. I can't reach it. Why not? Oh, because I opened it up again, so it actually like I have to run npm run dev again. That's right. All right, so now if I refresh this page, Control R to refresh a page. Yeah, and see it's blank. Okay. But if I type in hello here and save it, then that shows up. Beautiful. Wonderful. All right. To get out of the terminal, Control J will hide it and bring it up. Control backtick also does that. Here I have a linter, and to delete a line, I can do Control Shift K, and that will delete the lines for me. We need a quote and our set quote, so we're going to do quote, set quote. And use state is basically our variable in React because we can't actually set a regular variable because React does some weird stuff behind the scenes that you have to use the use state for variables basically. And basically our quote is going to be of type quote, and it's going to start out as a random quote. And we're going to call a get random quote function, but we don't have any of this stuff defined yet. So we need to define what a quote is. So we're going to go interface quote, and GitHub Copilot is helping me out here, which is awesome. And a quote is just actually not text. It's going to be the quote and the author, which is a string. Right. Save that. And now that error goes away, but we also have this get random quote function. And this function is going to be const get random quote, obviously the name of the function. It's going to not return a quote. Actually, it is going to return a quote. So in TypeScript, if you find a colon after the parameter list, that is the type that it returns. So it's going to return a quote. And the quote it's going to return is going to be from a different file. But we haven't made that yet. So yeah, so quotes. So the quotes bank that I'm using, we don't have yet. I need to find that. The way I found it was I first went to FreeCodeCamp, looked at this app functionality. Um, And then I figured out where these quotes are coming from. So I inspect the page, and then we can look at a bunch of different stuff on here. The one I'm interested in is the network. And if I refresh this page, we can see the quotes that JSON are coming from this request URL. And basically I can go to this URL and it will give me all the different quotes that we have that we want to use. And what I can do is I can just copy and paste this into my project. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do Control Alt, Control C, and I'm going to paste this into my random quote machine. All right, so to do this, I'm going to make a new file inside of assets, or yeah, I'll put it in assets just because I don't know, that's I guess where you put assets. So I'm going to name this quotes.json, and I'm just going to paste in all these quotes. All right, and I also want to just make it an array. I don't think there's a reason to make it an object. So I'm going to get rid of these outer braces, save that, it formats for me, and yeah, sweet. Now if I go to app.tsx, and now I can grab these quotes by using the import statement. All right, so I'm going to import quotes from assets /assets /quotes.json. So assets, if I do /assets, that means the current folder. All right, so we're inside of source right now. So / means uh, inside source, but then we go into assets, so this folder, and then we find quotes.json in there, and then we extract quotes from it, which is just an array. So now I'm able to actually use this array and get the random quote from it. So in this case, we want to do math.floor, math.random times quotes.length. Beautiful. And that is perfect. So now when we get random quote, it will actually give us that quote. So if I save that, I think that works. No? Control J, if I refresh this. No. Why is that not working? Oh, that's why. Quote Quote is, I need to do quote.quote because we have to go inside of the interface to grab it. So do quote.quote. Yeah, beautiful. And there we go. Now we get definitiveness of purpose as a starting point of all achievement. Beautiful. And if I refresh this, it gets a random quote every time because we are using math.random. Okay. Now, how do we make this thing look good? That is the question. And we also need to add an author and add some icons. So let's do that right now. So instead of returning just a quote, we're going to be making a div. So just type in div and then hit enter. Emmet should pick that up. If it doesn't, you have to get Emmet for React. I think that's an extension, something like that. And then inside of this div, we need a div.hashtag quote box. So in order to pass all the tests, we need to define these IDs, these divs with IDs. And then inside of the quote box, we're going to have a div with a class of quote content. All right, inside the quote content, we're going to have an h2 with a ID of text. ID of text. All right, inside of the text, we're going to have the quote.quote. All right. So if I save that, you can see it's a lot bigger because the h2 styling is bigger by default. All right, underneath the h2, we're going to have an h4 for the author. So h4 hashtag author. And this is going to be quote.author. Wonderful. If I save that, we can see that Robert Frost said this. Beautiful. I'm also going to add a dash before that. All right, so this is pretty basic so far. How do we add the quotes around this thing? Well, we have to go and get a icon library. in order to get this icon library, we actually have to install it. So I'm going to end the server right now. And then if I refresh this, it won't connect. But I need to install npm I or install, either one. But npm I is for short. We are going to install React icons, which is a pretty universal React library for icons. And now when I do npm run dev, we have that installed, so I can start importing some icons into my project. And if I refresh this, now it's connected again. So in order to get some icons, I'm going to import them at the top. The three that we need are Twitter, Twitter. We need quote left and quote right. Now from React icon slash fa. Beautiful. Okay. And now once we have that, now we can start using these quotes. Or yeah, the quote icons. So we're going to surround this H2 with these quotes. The first thing is quote left. And we don't need an ID. We do need a size on it though. The size is going to be 30. And we also want to add a style tag of margin of 10 pixels. That's just so that it gives it some room to breathe. All right, and then yeah, margin right, and then this one's going to have a margin left, and it's going to be the quote right. So if we save that, there we go. We get our huge quotes in here. Beautiful. Okay, awesome. We can style the quote box now as well if we want, just to make it look a little bit nicer like this. So we might as well do that before the buttons. So to find the CSS, uh, I'm going to use app.css for all the CSS basically. First thing we're going to take a look at is actually we need to add a background class. So inside this first div, we're going to give it a class name, a background, so we know what the background is. And then inside of app.css, we're going to add some CSS for the background. So to grab that background class, .background does that. Margin of 0, just make sure there's no margin. Display flex, we're going to center this stuff. So justify content center. We need aligned items of center. I'm waiting for GitHub Copilot to give me this. Come on, man. Maybe it won't. Line items of center. And we need a height of 100 VH. Save that, and now it is centered perfectly. If I make it bigger, it should still center. Um, it's not really centering because it doesn't have a max width on it. So the max width is the length of the quote. But yeah, you can see how it centers now. In order to give it a max width, we're going to target that quote box with hashtag quote box because hashtag grabs IDs. And then we're going to give it a width of 500 pixels. We're going to give it a margin of 0 auto. We'll give it a min height of 300 pixels. If I save that, it should have a width of 500 now. So if I make it bigger, it will only get this big. We want to give it a display flex. We'll do a flex direction of column. Give it a justify content of space between. We'll give it a padding of 2 rem. We'll give it a text align of left. Left. We'll do background color of white, I guess. Although white's, yeah, it's just gonna be a box. I should actually use hashtag like 444 or something like that. Just make it gray for now. And then we're gonna give it a border radius of 8 pixels. Just give it the rounded edges. And then a box shadow as well. So there's our box shadow. Nothing's really showing up. I think I also wanted to do 5 pixels on the left and right so that it looks like it's on the bottom. and then get rid of 0. We're going to make this darker and see what that looks like. You can kind of see that box shadow now. Uh, Barely though. It's very subtle. So the quote content, dot quote content. Let's add some stuff here. Quote content. It's going to have a height of 220 pixels. Give it a display of flex direction column, and GitHub Copilot is so awesome. We're going to do space around for justify content and margin of 10 pixels. Save that, and you can see it spaces out a little bit nicer. Inside of our author, we're just going to make sure that that aligns to the right so that it actually like goes over to the right instead of where it is right now. It should be over here. All right, so we're going to go hashtag author and text align right. And I'm actually going to get rid of these 2 lines. Don't need those. There we go. Tony Robbins on the right. Beautiful. So it's looking a lot nicer now. So that's good. Now we need to add the tweet button and the change quote button. So thankfully that's pretty simple. Underneath the quote content div, but still inside the quote box. So we can use this line to line it up. We need to still be inside quote box. So right here, we're going to do div.buttons. And so our buttons are going to be an A tag, first of all, which has an href to Twitter. The link that we need is this one right here. I'm just going to copy it from my other project and save that. So here's the href. It's twitter.com/intent/tweet. Hashtag quotes related FreeCodeCamp. Text is the quote.quote. All right. And then inside of here, we're going to give it an ID of tweet quote so that it passes the FreeCodeCamp test. We're going to give it a style. And the style is going to be a background color yeah, blue, but we're going to make it a random color later. The transition, we're going to have a transition on it, but right now let's do emergent rights of 10 pixels. And it's still not showing up because inside of here we don't have any content. And what do we need in here? We need the font Twitter icon. And the font Twitter icon is also going to have a color of white. There we go. It's so small. It's so tiny. We have to add some CSS for the button. Yeah. So inside of app.css, or actually, is it button? Oh yeah. We need to add some CSS for buttons and for A tags. So in order to do that, we're going to go back to the CSS, and just under here, we're going to add button, and also for an A tag. So that will go underneath. And then basically for both of these, we're going to have a border radius to make it rounded of 8 pixels. We'll do a border of 1 pixel solid transparent. We're going to do padding of 0.6 rem and 1.2 m. Actually, they're both m. 0.6 m, 1.2 m. We'll give it a width of fit content. If I save this now, it's already looking a ton better just because of the padding. We're going to give it a font weight of 500, pretty standard. Font family of inherit, which I think it'll inherit anyway, so I don't have to add that. I'm going to give it a background color default to a black, which is hashtag 1A, 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 1A. And then the cursor is going to be pointer, just to make sure we know that we can click on it. And the transition, we're going to transition on the back border color. Border color. Yeah, I guess the border color. Okay. Actually, yeah, we don't have to add that. I don't know why that's in there. All right, let's add the change quote button. This button is going to be a hashtag of new quote. So it's going to have an ID of new quote. And then inside this button, it's just going to say change quote. If I save that, there it shows up right away. We need to change the styling on that a little bit, but for now, we also need to add an on-click handler. So the on-click is going to be or change quote, change quote. All right, so this change quote is going to be a function that we define up here, and it's going to be const change quote. And inside of here, we're going to set quote random quotes. Beautiful. So now if I click this button, it changes the quotes. Look at how easy that was. Did that in like 2 seconds. Okay. Now, one thing about this one is when I change the quote, the color changes, basically everything. So I'm going to want to do the same thing for this one as well. Also, you can see that the title on here is change quote machine or random quote machine, and the title on this one is v plus react plus ds. We want to actually change this title, and we can do that by looking at the index.html file, index.html file. Inside of here, here's our title. We just want to get rid of that and do random quote machine. Save that, and now we can see that this title has changed. Another thing is we can add the tests in. So this test suite actually comes from a URL, um, and we can just add it into a script tag to add it. So I'll just give you the script tag. Script, make sure to defer it. I'm actually not sure if that's needed, but I do it anyway, just to be safe. And it's just the cdn freecodecamp.org testable projects FCC version 1 bundle.js. If I save that, we can see our test suite shows up. If I take a look at our random quote machine and I try running the test, look at that. Already 12 out of 12 passed. Oh my gosh. Can you believe it? I can't believe it actually. Because we're not done with it. We still have to add the CSS for changing colors. And to change the colors, we're going to add another use state in here, which is going to be a random color. So const random color, set random color, it's going to be a string. Start out, we're going to have to get a random color. So I'm going to define a function here, get random color, and then we're going to make that function up here. Const get random color, where we need a Copilot to help us out with this. Oh, we could do it like this, or we could do it how I have it already, which is const red equals math.floor, math.random times, and we're gonna try and make it dark. So I'm only gonna do times 128 so that it is between 0 and 128 instead of 0 and 255 because I want to keep it dark so that white will always show up on the color. And we're going to do that for red, green, and blue, and then we're going to basically combine them. Const blue, and then combine them, return RGB, beautiful. If I save that, nothing happens because we're not using random color. So let's use this random color. And the first thing we want to do is add it to the background. So to do that, we're going to go Style, Background Color of random color. If I save it now, look at that, random color. If I change the quote, nothing happens because when we change the quote, we also want to set a random color and get random color again. All right, so now when I change it, we get random colors every time. We also need to add this random color to the buttons and to the background of this, this thing right here, the quote box. So to add the random color to the quote box, it's actually not going to be the quote box, it's going to be the quote content. Because do we want to keep this white? Yeah. We want to keep this white and the text is going to be a random color. So yeah, inside of the quote content, we're going to have a style of color. So text color is going to be the random color. If I save that, there we get this random color. And then inside of our app.css, we can actually change this color to white again. So white, save that, and look at that. It's looking pretty good. This button still looks weird, unfortunately. Can I do anything about that? I think I can. it's just going to require me styling it on here. So we need to add a style tag. Style is going to equal background color of random color. Save that, and there we go. Now it's purple. We also have to add this random color to this one instead of this blue. We're going to do random color. Save that. So now that Tweety bird looks great. Okay, so inside of app.css, inside of here, we actually do need to do font family inherit. I think maybe I'm getting this messed up, but oh yeah, that does actually change it a little bit. Okay. Um. Anyway, we can just add color of white on here. And there we go. Change code is white. Padding should be the same as this one though. That's what is throwing me off. I think the text just has to be larger. Have font size of 1em. Font size of 1em. Save that. There we go. Now they're the same font size. And it looks great. Okay. Sometimes I just cannot read code, even though I've been doing it for a long time. Okay. So you can see these quotes aren't really lined up correctly. Those should be display of flex, should they not? In order to do that, I actually put them in the wrong spot. So inside of this H2, we actually want to surround the quote with these, um, with the quotes. Yeah. So there we go. Now it looks a lot better. Okay. So like, the icon should be inside of the H2. Now, are we done? Well, there's one last thing we have to do. You can see on my original that it takes some time for the colors to change, and that is due to a transition, a CSS transition, yes. And in order to do this transition, I just defined a variable up here called transition, const transition, and it's going to be all 1 second. And then we're going to add this to our different style tags. So we need the background to have this transition. So we're going to just add transition. And basically, if the name of the key and the value is the same name, you can just do transition and it will know what you're talking about. So it's putting transition of this value in there, all of 1 second. So now when I change the quote, it takes 1 second for the color to change. And we also want to add that to the background color of these buttons and the color of the quote. So inside of here, just add transition. Inside the buttons, we're going to also add the transition. So I think we should add it here so that it does it for both of them, or maybe I'm doing that wrong. Okay, I just add it to both the style tags because why not? Transition and transition down here. Transition. All right, save that. And now when I change the quote, all of it takes 1 second for the color to change. And there we have it. We're basically done. Uh, Now in order to host this, we're going to be using Netlify. And just to make sure it passes all the tests, it still does. Wonderful. So Netlify is a hosting service. Makes it really simple to host like React apps and Svelte applications. I've used it a couple times before. It works like a beaut. You do have to have a GitHub account. Right here, this is my account. I have 100 gigabytes of bandwidth, which I've barely used. It's just my starter project. I have one website on here, which I did for a friend. So first of all, we have to go to GitHub. If you don't have a GitHub account, make sure to make it. Mine is Landon345. Make sure to follow me on here. I have 99 followers. So we need to put this on GitHub, and then we can transfer it to Netlify from there. In order to put it on GitHub, you create a new repository, and we'll give this a repository name of FCC random quote machine, and that already exists on this account. So I'm going to do number 2, random quote machine 2. Uh-huh. We'll make it a public so that you guys can see the code, and that should be good. So create this repo. It kind of gives us what we should do for the commands. In order to run these commands, you have to have Git installed. So yeah, I know there's a ton of stuff you need installed for developments like this, but it is definitely worth it to go get it. Because you're going to be using it your whole career. If you really want to do this, you have to download this stuff. Like there's no getting around it. So make sure to Git. The website looks like this, and just look at the downloads and download it for your operating system. Wonderful. And then you should be able to type in Git inside of the terminal. And in my case, Git comes with the VS Code, or comes with the starter project of this Vite project. So in order to see that I have Git installed, I can go to the source control tab on the left. And actually, this needs to initialize a repository. We're not tracking any Git right now because none of these are green. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So let me get out of this since we're done coding and we just want to host it. So in order to initialize, we can do git init, and now all these turn green, as you can see. And also the source control lights up. All these are untracked. And in order to track them, we have to add them. So we're going to do git add all. There adds it. Another thing is that you might not know is this node modules folder is blanked out. That means it's not going to get pushed up to GitHub, and that is because of this git ignore file, which tells the Git everything it should ignore, and node modules is in here, so it's going to get grayed out. If we put in a dist folder, that will get grayed out. If we put in a logs folder, it'll get grayed out, and it won't get pushed to GitHub. So in order to actually put this on GitHub, we need to actually just commit it. We have to git add and git commit, and then we have to add this remote origin. So I'm actually just going to copy the remote add origin part, and then inside of our terminal, if I can make this maybe a little bit bigger, I don't know. We'll see if you guys like that or not. And okay, so if I clear this, I know it's off to the right. It's kind of weird, but we'll make do. I'm gonna do git add all. Maybe I already did that. I might have already done that. Let's add this remote origin. So there we go. Now it's connected to my GitHub account. You might have to log in for this stuff, but actually I think it asks you to log in when you push. So we're gonna do commit -m initial commit is whatever you want here. And this is the commit message. If you don't know anything about Git, it's going to be weird at first, but it becomes second nature after a while. And then after that, we can do git push, but it's going to tell me I have to set an upstream origin. So the short way to do that is to do git push -u origin main, since we're on the main branch. And then it will push. It might ask you to log in as well. And now it should be on GitHub. So if I refresh this page, here is all of our code. Yes. And now you guys can look at this because it is public. And just go to this URL. All right. So now we need to, also, it doesn't have a README for some reason. That's weird. Oh well. Let's go to Netlify. And let's go to my sites. Let's add a new site. We're going to import existing projects. And we're going to deploy with GitHub. Yes. We're going to authorize GitHub and authorize Netlify to look into my GitHub account. And we're going to search the repos. And the repo we're going to search is the random quote machine. So I think I have 2 of these in here. Yeah, and the one we just made is this random quote machine 2. We're going to deploy the main branch. That is perfect. The build command is npm run build. In order to see the build command, we go into our random quote machine and Control J, go to the package JSON, and you can see the build command in here. Right here, build. So if we do npm run build, it will actually run this command, which is tsc vite build. tsc compiles the TypeScript, and then vite build will actually build a project and get it minimized and ready for production use. And then it will run it for us. So let's try this. I'm not sure if it'll work. Uh, let's deploy. It shouldn't take too long for it to deploy. It's usually pretty fast at this stuff. And we can actually like look into this and see the deploy log and what commands it's running. It failed to fetch cache, but it's starting the build script. And Vite is pretty fast with this stuff, so I'm expecting it to not take very long. And it didn't. And it's already deployed. So here we go. Open production deploy. And here it is. Oh my gosh, it's on the internet. So now anyone can go to this link and this will show up. So if we do the random quote machine, run the tests, they'll still pass. And basically now we can just take this link right here. By the way, Netlify is completely free. And we can go to random quote machine and put in our solution link. So instead of a code pen, we can have the actual hosted website and say we've completed it. And then FreeCodeCamp stores that. And then for the certification, it will store that link for you. And then we can go on to the next challenge. So yeah, complete this challenge. The next challenge is the Markdown previewer. So stay tuned for that. I hope you learned a lot during this build. I certainly did. We build this beautiful random quote machine. All right. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. All right. Peace out. Bye.